Hi, I'm Richard Maraj, Senior Minister at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center, and I want to thank you for visiting our website and for tuning in to today's message. If you feel inspired by today's talk, I really encourage you to make a donation by hitting that button below and making a contribution to this ministry. It'll allow us to continue these messages online and to do the great work we do here at Unity of Phoenix, which is to inspire people to live better lives. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for your support, and we hope to see you at a Sunday real soon.
Morning again, everyone. And a shout out to everybody who tunes in and watches us online. So these three sons left home on their own, and they all succeeded and prospered in amazing ways. And years back, later, they got back together and to discuss the gifts that they were able to give their elderly mother. And the first son said, well, I built a big, luxurious, $1 million mansion for Mom. And the second son said, well, I got the top-of-the-line Mercedes-Benz for her with her personal driver available 24/7 on call. And the third son said, I got you both beat. You know, you remember how Mom loved reading the Bible? Well, now that she's too old and can't read that well, I bought her a remarkable, priceless, one-of-a-kind parrot that can recite the entire Bible to her. It took the elders 12 years to train the parrot to memorize the Bible and be able to do this. All Mom needs to do is call the chapter and verse, and the parrot will just recite it to her. Totally priceless, one of a kind, only one in the world. And so a couple of weeks later, the mom sent thank you notes and wrote, Dear Milton, the house you built is so beautiful and so huge, but I only live in one room. I can't get around all the other rooms and certainly can't clean that entire place. I don't need a house this big, but thank you. And then to the second son, Dear Gerald, I am too old to travel. Most of the day I spend at home, so I rarely use the Mercedes, and the driver's a little rude. So please be a dear and return the car. And to the third son, she wrote, Dearest Donald, I truly appreciate your thoughtful gift. It was the most practical gift by far, and it shows that you know what your mother really likes. Thank you again. The chicken was delicious. Okay. Whew. Oh. All right. So how many people here have wanted to and still want to live the good life? How many people want to live a good life? And how many people have found that it's been a little bit challenging to raise all the areas of your life to the level of happiness and success you'd really like? You find it a little challenging. And how many people ever felt like you've had some of your dreams dashed and it's just hard work, you're just struggling just to make it work or even make ends meet? Anybody ever have that? The fact is, every one of us wants to live the good life. Every one of us wants to live a prosperous life, and it is something that we all deserve. And the fact is, life isn't easy. It was meant to be easy, but I believe that we struggle and suffer far more than we are meant to. That I think sometimes we let go of our dreams. Sometimes I think that we settle for a far less fulfilling than we are able and meant to live. And what would surprise you the most is a lot of our frustration and disappointment that we experience on the road of life, trying to achieve the good life, is actually self-created. A lot of the struggle that we have is really a reflection of our own lack of awareness and lack of understanding about how life works and the spiritual principles involved in supplying and bringing forth the kind of life that we want. Often we are out of balance spiritually because we're overly focused and obsessed with all things worldly. So today we're going to look at how do we bring home prosperity? How do we experience a more prosperous life as we look in week 3 on the book, Even Mystics Have to Pay Their Bills by Reverend Jim Rosemergy. You know, one of the big challenges for us is every one of us has been sold and bought into the huge illusion and falsehood that money and material possessions will necessarily make us happier and more fulfilled. I think every one of us has thought at some time, because culturally we think this. We've all thought, including myself, if I just win $1 million, I'll be all set. If I just had several million or enough money, all my problems would go away. That's a mindset that we have gotten accustomed to in our culture. We tend to think that poverty is about not having a lot, but you know what true poverty is? It is about believing that other things in the world will necessarily make us happy. and that we keep chasing those things one after the next, but it's never enough because that's not where the source of fulfillment comes. I think I'd mention a quote by Jim Carrey, who said, I wish everyone in the world could experience being rich and famous so they can find out for themselves that's not the answer to peace and happiness. It's easy for us to get mesmerized and captivated and judged by the appearance of what looks like a prosperous life. You know, we tend to think being wealthy is about having a lot, but you know what true prosperity is? It is about feeling that source within you, of feeling rich within, feeling prosperous inside, and feeling a deeper sense of connection to love and to joy and to peace, an awareness that you are connected to the source out of which all good comes forth from, an awareness of God's presence within us. That's wealth. Somebody once said, people who are poor look without, and people who are rich look within. And that is where it comes from. It is a consciousness of God. It is a consciousness of abundance and knowing that connection within ourselves. In the book of Matthew, chapter 25, there's a wonderful parable called the parable of talents. And it ends with this line that doesn't always make sense to us. And it says, for everyone who has, more will be given, and they shall have an abundance. But to he who has not, even that which they have will be taken away. To he who has, more will be given, and they'll have an abundance. And to he who has not, even that which they have will be taken away. Does that not sound like the rich get richer and the poor get poorer? Does that sound inherently unfair? If you already have a lot, you're going to get a lot more. And if you don't have much, you're going to even lose that. But if you look deeper at what it's saying, it's very profound. What this is talking about, to he who has a consciousness of having, an awareness and a mindset of abundance and prosperity, an awareness of God, that they will attract more and experience more. But to they who have not, who feel like they don't have enough love or money or feel disconnected or feel like they're living in lack or they're poor, that consciousness of lack, that consciousness of not having, that even that which they have, because what you think about, you attract. And when you think that you have not enough or lacking, that's what you will attract more of. Does that make sense, everyone? When you look at that, that's what it's talking about. So what we want to look at today is how do we develop a consciousness of having, a consciousness of abundance, and moving away from a consciousness of have not, a consciousness of lack and limitation. Here's 6 things we want to do to attract a consciousness of having and a consciousness of abundance. First one is to have a consciousness of being connected to the source. You know, the first line of the 23rd Psalm says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That when you know that God is your shepherd, your protector, your source, that we don't feel a sense of lack. We feel supported, we feel provided for, we feel connected. We feel confident that the good that we need will be provided for us. The Lord is my shepherd, my source, my protector, that I will not live in want. And while we hear that, the truth is we live a lot of our day in want, focusing on what we don't have, focusing on what isn't working. You know, believing at some level that there just isn't enough. You know, thinking, I don't have this or I don't have that, and this is missing from my life, and there isn't enough of that. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And what it's saying is when you get to the feeling and awareness of that connection, that God is with you, within you, and always providing for you, we don't spend time being anxious or worried or thinking we're going to lose what we have. So the question is, do you really believe that God is your shepherd? Do you believe that God is your source? Do you believe in every day that you are supported, that you are provided for? Or do you spend a lot of your time in want and lack and having anxiety and worry about things working out? And the only way to know that the Lord is your shepherd is to spend time in that consciousness of God, to feel that connection. You know, Jesus prayed in the morning, the afternoon, evening, all the time. Why? Because he wanted that connection, and he was aware that he was connected to that source, and it was available to him and accessible to him in all situations. Another powerful scripture on this line is, it says, seek ye first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. And what that means is to develop a consciousness that the first thing you think about and turn to in all situations is God. To seek God more than anything else. Because sometimes we want the thing more than we want God. That we want the big house, a new car, whatever it is that thing is. Sometimes we seek that first. But this is saying when you put God as the most important thing in your life, all the things of God actually begin to flow in your life. You don't have to struggle for it. And that's the big challenge, to not want what you want more than you want God. And that's the work for all of us, is those things need to be secondary and God needs to be primary. Because when you put God first, all these things will be added unto you. All these things will begin to flow. You know, a perfect example is Jesus. Jesus was so prosperous, but when you think about it, Jesus had no job. He had no bank account, no investment portfolio, no paycheck. I don't know, he didn't have a house. He didn't have a lot, but he had a consciousness. He knew he was connected to God and prayed and connected to that source throughout the day consistently all the time. And because wherever he went, he carried his abundance with him. It was in him and he was connected. He knew the Lord was his shepherd and he shall not want. He knew that when he sought God first, that all that he needed in every moment would be there. Even with the loaves and fishes, an appearance of lack, he didn't feel want. He had an awareness and he gave thanks for all the good that was there, and it attracted even more good. Why? Because he had a mindset of abundance. He had an awareness of his connection with the source. And my question is, how connected do you feel to God? How supported? You know, how provided? How dependable do you feel God is in your life? Because the more time we cultivate and spend in that awareness, the more like Jesus, wherever we go, our abundance will be right there. Because we know that source is connected, it's available and accessible to us at all times. The second thing is to have a consciousness of thankfulness. You know, besides focusing on what we don't have in life, two other things we do that limit our abundance, and that is we tend to think kind of negatively. You know, this is never going to work out. You know, I messed up before, I'll probably mess up again. And then another one is we tend to take things for granted. There are so many good things in our life. We take people for granted. We take our jobs for granted, our home. We take so many things for granted. And these three things really keep us trapped in a prison of limitation when we're only thinking lack, when we're thinking negativity, and when we take the good that's around us, that we can't even see it, that we take it all for granted. It's like a prison of limitation. And I'll tell you, the greatest thing to break us out of it, besides knowing God as your source, is the practice of thanksgiving. Do you know when you're thankful, it is the quickest way to turn yourself from negative to positive, from a mindset of lack to abundance, from emptiness to fullness. To be thankful and grateful literally breaks down the limitations and prisons and walls of lack to open it to a level of abundance. Let me give an example. In the book of Acts, chapter 16, verse 25 and 26, Paul and Silas are in prison. And so what do? They start singing praises and giving thanks and giving thanks and giving thanks. Then suddenly an earthquake happens and the doors and the walls of the prison open up and they are free. So just practicing thankfulness every day, acknowledging what you're grateful for, the people in your life, what's working well, the things that you appreciate, is a powerful way to lift our consciousness from a have-not to a have. You know, I'm grateful for my family. You know, I'm grateful for all of my wonderful friends. I'm grateful for sunny days. I'm grateful for rainy days. I'm grateful for seeing the moon and the stars at night. You know, I'm grateful for nature. I'm grateful for Excedrin. I'm grateful for my chiropractor. I'm grateful for Contour TV. It's really quite amazing. You press a button, I say NBA basketball, and bam, it comes on. You know, I'm grateful for my new glasses. I am thankful for that. My shock absorbers, I got new shock absorbers. It's amazing how you take for granted shock absorbers, but man, they really make a difference. I'm so glad about that. You know, I'm thankful that my hair is growing back because I had a really horrible haircut last week, and it's so nice. Not as much as growing back and not growing back in all the places I want, but I'm thankful that my hair is growing. I'm thankful that this summer my sister invited me to spend some time in her chalet in the French Alps, so I'll be meditating there. I'm thankful that my niece asked me to perform the ceremony of her wedding in August, and I'm very, very thrilled about that. I could go on and on about the things I'm grateful for, but what are the things are you thankful for? I bet you there are countless things that you can appreciate about this sense of smell or sight or living in Phoenix or the beautiful mountains. There's so many people who bless us and support us and encourage us and help us be our best, who believe in us. And sometimes we take it for granted. One of the best ways to move from have not to have is to be thankful, to acknowledge your blessings and to be grateful for all of those things. The next one is to have a consciousness of letting go. You know, when we think of a have consciousness, we think about having more and holding on. But have consciousness and a prosperity consciousness also requires a consciousness of letting go. We have an obsession as human beings with holding on. That we have, we think prosperity is about having more, and the more we can hold on to, the more prosperous we are. And sometimes holding on can be, gone wild, is developed into a TV show called Hoarders. Have you seen this thing? Hoarders. People who buy everything and stack up, magazines like this. They collect everything and won't throw it away. Why? Because one day we might need it. And we have all kinds of stuff, and we clog up and clutter our lives because we hoard, thinking that having more and holding on to everything is better. Do you know that hoarding and holding on to everything is a sign of lack and limitation? It's a sign of insecurity and fear and a lack of faith that there won't be more. And so one of the things we need to do is learn how to let go and release, to go through our closet or garage and let go of some of that stuff. Release it to someone who might use it. There are things we've got in our closets we haven't worn in years. We have exercise equipment that's so good that just isn't being used. The rule of thumb is if you haven't used it in a year, give it away. Share it, release it. Get that energy moving. We got to watch our propensity for holding on and hoarding. In the book of Exodus, chapter 16, remember when the children of Israel were in the wilderness and God gave them manna, their daily bread, and the instruction was you would get enough for one day, only take enough for one day, because you will get the next day. You will get your daily bread. And what did the people do? They hoarded. And saving it, not trusting and believe that God would provide. And what happened to that bread that they didn't eat that they saved for the next day? It went bad and it had worms in it. The fact is, can we trust that when we give away, when we release, that there will be more good? Releasing and letting go and giving actually is a sign that you trust, that you not only circulate that good, but you trust that more good will be coming. So are you willing to practice letting go? Letting go and cleaning out a closet, letting go of any resentment, letting go of any relationships or any dreams that no longer serve you. What do you need to let go? Because it's a consciousness of having that has the strength to be able to release. The next one is to have a consciousness of paying your bills with joy. So like when you pay APS and Cox, what kind of feeling do you have while you're writing that check to them? Are you feeling the love? Are you feeling joy and excitement? Or do you ever pay a bill begrudgingly? Like they're trying to cheat you or rob you or take it a bunch of crooks at Cox. I just can't stand it. I'm just making up stuff. If you work at Cox, I'm just pretending. But we act like these people are doing something to us. They're stealing. It's unfair that I got to pay them. We got to really, this sounds simple, but the mindset with which we pay our bills is actually a powerful sign of the consciousness of abundance that we really, really have. Think about it. We think of like APS, it's kind of cheating me, robbing me, they're gouging. I can't stand these people. But when I think about it, if it wasn't for APS, I wouldn't have air conditioning. If it wasn't for APS, my food in my fridge wouldn't stay cold. I wouldn't be able to microwave stuff. My ceiling fans wouldn't work. I wouldn't be able to enjoy my Contour TV. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have electricity from my cappuccino machine, which I love so very, very much. So I've transformed my relationship with APS I'm not resentful and not begrudging. But when I write a check, I just say, I bless APS. Because let's say that together. I bless APS. Someone from the first service asked me if I was getting a kickback or something from that. But and the point is, we're exchanging one good for another. We're not losing. No one's robbing us or depleting us. So we need to joyfully, pay those bills. Realize that our lives are being blessed, and we can afford it. And that's a part of the cycle of what keeps our economy and everything moving. And so why not be joyful about it and be grateful and thankful? To just say, I pay my bills with joy, and I enjoy paying my bills. And we really should, because it is a joyful and wonderful activity. Because of other people, we get services that help our lives be more comfortable, more blessed and more fulfilled. So why not appreciate it and have a consciousness of have rather than a consciousness of have not? The next one is to have a consciousness of giving. Most of us think that prosperity is demonstrated when we receive, but true prosperity is actually demonstrated when we give. Because giving is a law that activates the flow of abundance. As we give, so too shall we receive. Giving keeps that energy moving in great and wonderful ways. And there are all kinds of forms of giving of our time and our service and our energy. But the hardest and the one that we fear the most is giving of our money, giving of our tithing. And understand it, because that's right at the source of our survival, because we need money to survive in our culture. Think, if I give away what I don't think I have enough of, how's it going to come back? But that law works. You got to keep it moving, and you got to keep it flowing, and flowing consistently. And so here are the ways, because it's not easy for anyone. Here are the 5 ways that Jim Rosemergy says that is the consciousness building of becoming a giver and a tither. He said the first step is usually not giving. And then because we don't know, we don't trust, we don't like. And then the second one is that we might start by giving and feel guilty about it or feel pressured about it. And then it gets a little better. We give with duty. We think, well, I should really do this. And it starts getting things moving, but we're not really feeling the joy of it. And then the fourth one is to give with the expectation to get. We're thinking, well, if this give and you shall receive, well, I'm ready to receive, so I'm given to receive. And that does get things moving, but it's missing that element of joy. And the fifth area that we evolve to is to give with joy. To know that giving is a natural part of life, like inhaling and exhaling, that flow has to be. And if we want to continue that flow and improve that flow at the very highest level with our finances, because if we could do that without fear, there's no other kind of giving that would scare us at all, because it's the one that tends to scare us as human beings. That consciousness of giving really does, it makes us know that we're connected to that source, and we want to keep giving to places that inspire people spiritually. To get this kind of message and consciousness flowing in our world, in our community, in our homes. And then the final one is to have a consciousness of living your life now. So often we put things off. As soon as I meet the right person, as soon as I get that job or that promotion, or I get that big house, or I save that much money. Or when we have kids, or when the kids move out of the house, or when I retire. We're always putting off life until something magical happens down the road. And it's really creating a habit of putting off and making excuses for delaying being fully engaged and alive. Here's what it says in the book of John, chapter 4, verse 35. You say 3 to 4 months before the harvest. I tell you, lift up your eyes and see that the fields are already ripe for harvest. And what Jesus is saying there, stop waiting for stuff to happen for you to be happy and alive. That life is now. Love is now. Joy is now. Blessings are now. Gratitude is now. Forgiveness is now. That to be engaged in your life and live it fully right now, that's the greatest sign of a consciousness of having and a consciousness of prosperity, is to be alive and engaged now. In that parable of the talents, the master is going away, and he gives one servant 5 talents, gives the other one 3, and the third one 1. When he comes back, the first one said, oh, master, I did well. I took this 5 and I made it 10. And the master said, well done, my good and faithful servant. You've done well with what I've given you, and now you can share in more of your master's joy. The second one said, I turned the 3 into 6. Master said, well done, my good and faithful servant. You've done well with what I've given you. You can share more in your master's joy. And the third one said, Master, here's your 1. I was afraid I was going to lose it, and I thought you'd get mad at me, so I buried it. Here's your 1 back. And the master was mad. He said, you wicked servant, and takes it away from him and throws it away. And that's where the line comes from. To he who has, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. And to he who has not, even that which they have will be taken away. And the point of it is to say, whatever you've been given in your life, whatever your lot, don't compare it to anyone else. Invest your heart in it. Use your life, enjoy it, and experience it. Love the people around you. Invest your heart and soul into the work you do, and make it the best, and then it will expand. You will share more in your master's joy. What is a warning, too, is about don't hold back from living now. Don't make excuses. Live now, fully and joyously. That's what a prosperous life is. So my question to you is, where in your life are you holding back? Where in your life are you not giving yourself fully to? Where in your life are you not investing your spirit, and know that you could live life more fully and more open-heartedly and more lovingly? You know, my neighbor who's 2 doors away was really into cars. He collects cars, all pre-1920 cars, has tons of cars in his garage. I've been there for tours and taken some friends. It's really incredible. A couple months ago, he was on Jay Leno's Garage show, and he had a 1913 Bugatti. It is the oldest Bugatti, the oldest car in North America. One of the things I love about Alan the most is not just how much he loves cars. I am so not into cars, but I love how he's into cars. But the thing I love the most about him is he drives his Bugatti. He drives his classic cars. He doesn't just polish and insure them and work on them and look at them. He actually uses them. And to me, that is so inspiring. You know, that he's living and enjoying it while he can, you know, and sharing it with people. And I find that so inspiring. So are you living your life your fullest? You know, are you enjoying all your stuff and all the people and investing yourself fully? For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have an abundance. But to he who has not, even that which they have will be taken away. Let's develop a consciousness of have instead of have not, by having a consciousness that we are connected to the source always. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. To being connected to the consciousness of giving thanks and appreciating all we have. Having a consciousness of being able to let go and give away and circulate old stuff. A consciousness of paying our bills with joy. And a consciousness of rejoicing and living our lives now. And if we practice that and do that, we will bring prosperity home. And that is the way that you live the good life. God bless you.